Greetings, everyone. Welcome to THL's Hearthcenter, your Tuesday night show, actually on a Tuesday tonight, bringing you the highlights of the last week of THL. I am one of your hosts, Lotus Knight, and I am joined by an amazing crew tonight. First, I want to welcome Tom Carter. Tom, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Glad to be here. Finally, as you said, on a Tuesday.
Yeah, we're finally on the promised day. Second, we have Impermanence here tonight. Impermanence, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm chilling. Yeah, happy to be here as well.
And finally, our guest of the night, Wild9 is here. Wild9, how are you?
Hey, doing good. It's nice to be here on a Tuesday. I usually can't do Tuesday nights, but school's winding down, so always nice to be able to do this.
It's always great having you. We have a huge show for tonight. We're going to do Wild, we're going to do Legacy, we're going to do Hero, Pro, and we're going to talk about our players of the week. Shall we hop onto it?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so we're going to start with our Hero player of the week, and I'm going to ask Impermanence if they can tell us who is our Hero player of the week.
Yeah, so kicking it off here with Hero, we've got Super Center. And coming in with a harmless dog with a submission. Not only has Super Center won the week-winning match in Legacy, but he clutched up in Hero Series as well. An off-meta lineup works wonders and allowed Super Center to win the final match of the week. So that's pretty interesting. I can't wait to dig into that lineup that they brought there.
Congratulations, Super Center, on your player of the week. Yeah, we're going to talk about so many matches, so let's see. And Tom, who is our Legacy player of the week?
Hell yeah, I wanted this one. So our legacy player of the week is Electric Ship City, and it says with a score at 9-8, and last to play Electric Ship City served his match 3-0, winning us the week. He's now also 3-0 on the season, worse by Dr. Wound, and yeah, I love Electric Ship City. Cool dude, cool dude. So I'm really
Nice.
happy.
Congratulations, Electric Shape City, for your player of the week. Wild9, who is our pro player of the week?
Your pro player of the week is Devalian. This is a submission by Impermanence, better known as a WoW player. Devalian can use his unbeaten run, now 3-0 to start the pro season. Good start, definitely well known as a pro player, and off to a great start in pro.
For sure. And Impermanence, let's tell us who is our Wild player of the week.
So yeah, I'm stoked about this one. This week in Wild, we got Tyler Neef getting her first player of the week. So she got her first ever Wild match win this week. Despite losing the week, we're still extremely proud of her, played well. And yeah, we're all just happy as a team for her success there. So shout out to you.
Nice. Congratulations, Super Center, Electric Sheep City, Devalian, and Tylanif. And Wild9, what do you need to do if you want to be a player of the week next week?
Get your captains to submit you.
Pretty much.
That's the right answer.
Win a match and tell your captains to submit. We're always looking for good submissions. Good write-ups are really welcome. You do need to win the week. I don't think we've ever given a player of the week on a loss.
That's true. I think
I do
probably
think
like
I've seen
if you
some mentions, yeah.
I feel like if you had like really good sportsmanship or something, I could see it though still. It's possible.
Yeah, I could also see it if there's someone who's like undefeated or hasn't lost one game for I don't know how many, and you get 2 games out of them. I could see it.
Yeah, like the 2 games for the tie or for a win or something like that for your team or something.
Yeah, it would need to be very specific. It's not a general scenario. But congratulations to all of these players of the week. And should we move on to Hero Series?
Let's go.
Sounds good.
All right, so we begin talking about Hero Series, where Wild9 himself is going to tell us how the Defias took on E.T. Yasharaj.
All right, so the final week score was 9-6 to Defias with a win. Not Bamity and Placeholder taking their games, and then the Real Lure losing theirs all on a score of 1-3 or 3-1. So not Bamity over Caleb EM, Placeholder over Lucero, and then LT Calvary over the Real Lure. At least I know for this week, like the way it played out, the 3 seed, so Defias lost the first match, so we're down and to sweep the rest of the matches, which what turned out, happening, what ended up happening. We do see like Shaman brought from everyone and Shaman banned from everyone, which is kind of interesting to me, just because Shaman, I guess the flexibility is tough between like Big Shaman and Hard Shaman and things like that, but in Hero at least you can counter, but I guess also you're probably afraid of getting swept by it. Then in terms of the matchup, like 5 priests, 5 DKs, which I also think is an interesting kind of hero meta thing. Just because priest also can be extremely strong, has some flexibility, but mostly I assume Zarimi priest, and DK being one of the best answers to that priest too. So people seem to have done good enough research to kind of know their opponents and bring what was appropriate. You see some differences. Rogue in the 1 makes a lot of sense just because of how popular that is in higher legend. I know that at least in the 1 seed match that like Rogue is very flexible, so I think like it wasn't a cycle Rogue. It was Schaffer, the Spellverse Rogue, which is interesting. So yeah, I just think Rogue is very flexible. You never know what you're gonna get, and you can definitely surprise people in this format with that Rogue class. So I think it's definitely got some value.
It's the magic of prep. Tom, what do you think here? Anything you want to add about this match?
I think Wild9 summarized very well what we're looking at here, but I still think it's funny. I know we haven't seen a really shake up from the meta. We did get a patch, but it was mostly bug pieces. So looking at this with all Shaman brings, all Shaman bans, it's just like, yep, that seems correct.
Yeah. Impermanence. Anything you want to add here?
Not really. Wildbind kind of nailed it there. We are seeing more of a rise in DK as one of the reliable counters to Shaman and other board decks. So as people prep more and the meta develops, it has, we're going to start to see a little bit more of that. So 5 DKs, pretty cool. Surprised to only see 1 Hunter though.
Yeah.
I do like Hunter quite a bit in this metagame. And another deck that we're probably going to be seeing a bit more of coming up is DH. I'm assuming that was face DH, which is a pretty scary deck, pretty cool aggro deck. Otherwise, it seems about normal. 6 shaman bans. Yep.
Yeah, it's more or less the number of shamans we've been seeing around. Anything else anyone wants to say about this match before we move on to our second match of the night?
No, I believe we can move.
All right. So our second match of the night, we have the APM Mirror, a Boulder Fist Mountain, facing a Paternal Milestone. I'm gonna ask Tom to go over this one for us.
Of course, and without looking at it, I already know that APM won. Sorry. So we have Bouldering Feast Mountain won against a Paternal Milestone. Chui on the first seed, winning 3-2 against Elfie Potter. Super Center, player of the week, won 3-2 against Bomb Masher. And lastly, on the third seed, Share 42, unfortunately lost 3-2 against Yellow Dart. But that still makes a Boulder Feast Mountain get the win for the week, ending in 10-8, and they are ahead, I believe now, by 5 points. We will look at the standings later, but stay ahead.
Let's see, Impermanence, anything you want to add about this match?
It was a close one. Literally came down to everybody had a 3-2 match there. You love to see it there. Kind of similar to last match there, we did have large showing of DK, matching the amount of shamans this time, 4-4. Otherwise, yeah, pretty standard stuff. First warrior for the week, close week though. Yeah, well played up Holderfist Mountain and Chewy in all of them.
For sure. This is quite the nice result. And
I believe that we are looking at one of the only 2 times Shaman was brought and not banned. Super Center didn't ban Bone Smasher Shaman.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually something that I think should be more popular possibly in Hero, just because you can bring counter decks. So even in this case Super Center with Warrior, right? But also DK if you just probably tech hard for it if you wanted to. So I just think it's a little interesting. Shaman's not as scary in some ways if you just bring a counter deck in Hero and then you can flex ban. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting in the Hero meta at least.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Hero meta it can be a lot more rock, paper, scissory. But why don't we take a look? Oh, go ahead.
The fact that 1 seed and 2 seed here, sorry, the fact that 1, 2 seed and 2 seed here don't bring Shaman, right? That, and they win those matches 3-2. I mean, that says something.
For sure. Should we take a look at the standings here? So let's move to take a look at the standings. And I want to ask, let's have Wild9 tell us what the standing looks like for Hero Series after this whole week. Defia's on top. What is going on?
Yeah. We've had a good start to this season with a 3-0 record. I think, are we leading in points as well? Yeah, by a sizable margin. I guess there's nobody else that's gone undefeated yet, so that makes sense, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Should I go through everything or?
You can choose if you want to go through match by match, highlights, anything you want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just do some highlights here maybe. Teams overall, I guess it's different in the 3-on-3 format series, I suppose. But that's kind of the new change, right?
Yeah.
Feels like you're getting some degree of variance in terms of how people are doing. The point spread feels more drastic in terms of the highest point numbers and the lowest. But otherwise, it does feel like there's a lot of bunching up. I mean, the Purple Conference feels super close in general. You're trying to get top 2, something like that. Definitely feels like anyone's game still. I mean, we're about almost halfway. I think after this week, it's going to be halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks super close, but then you have F2L Black with 33 points ahead. It is really close on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. And then, Defias is just with 44 points, just doing Defias things, I believe. With the last team on that conference being at 11 points, so the TL conference is not even at all. And Orange is a little bit closer with 33 on the first, with just 3 at joining crewmates, and then on the 4th spot with Wraith of the Beyond with 25. But then Gondor Wisps kind of throws that closeness by being at 7 points. So yeah, I don't think this is I really want to see what happens when all of the conference play against each other. How these average opponent strength and the game difference is going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, that was talked about, I think too, is the fact that each win as a week is 3 points, right? And it's still 3 points, whereas you only get max of 12 points. So before in the format of 5-on-5, the maximum points 4 points per 5, so that's 20. And now the maximum points is at 12. you're still getting 3 points if you win the week. So it's kind of an interesting format where the point differential is just like a little bit like you kind of have to get used to reading it, I think, in some ways, because it's like any given week, if you sweep, which is 3 out of 3, like that's 12 points plus the week, which is 15. So like that's the new kind of bandwidth that you're working with. So it's kind of interesting. Like definitely feels like winning 2 out of 3 every week is gonna really matter. Like I don't think Defias. I don't recall. Like I know at least 2 out of 3 weeks we won 2 out of 3, not like sweeps or anything. So I just feel like having that consistency of having at least 2 people win, like that seems to matter more in terms of the point system here.
Yeah, and here a harmless dog on Twitch chat actually corrects me and says that Galaxy Guardians had a bye, so that's why they have less points. So that makes a little bit more sense.
That's right. That's right. I forget that in Hero there's also buys on top of it. You have to look at the points per week.
For sure. Why don't we move to our next series? I'm going to flip the script and move the order here, if that's okay for everyone. I'm going to bring Wild next.
Ooh,
Okay, that wasn't expected.
Right? So we're going to hop straight into Wild as Impermanence tells us about the Wild THL Fanatics facing ET Nazoth.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what do we got here? Yeah, another really close week coming out of Wild. A 13-12 decision going to the Wild THL Fanatics, just continuing a very successful season for the team. We do have, we have 2 3-1 victories and a 3-2 victories going to Schmoopy, Azalea, and Neon Heron, respectively. Unfortunately for ET Nazoth and username specifically, he gets the huge 3-0 sweep, although his team just barely comes up short. Some pretty cool lineups though. Looking at the lists right here, as we see Kamas on ET Nazoth bringing Warsong Warrior. Warrior is not a very popular class in Wild, although there is definitely a good chunk of players who've had some very high ladder success with this deck. Basically just building up like a massive charge board with your commanders and other enrage cards, summoning, going for skipper plays and setting up lethal as early as I think turn 5 is one of the higher rolls. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what build you are doing, but there is the version that runs the 2-mana spell to the front. So,
Right.
yeah, this version does. So, yeah, you can pop off as soon as turn 5 because I believe you only need like 3 minions and the spell is 2 mana.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck. We see a ton of C block as usual, 5 overall between the two between the two teams. ET Nazoth, the entire team is pretty much on the same page, if not the same page, bringing 5 DH. We have Pirate and Quest, 4 aggro priests, 3 C blocks, and an XL lock. As Tom, actually, you ended up subbing for this team, and you were playing Cosmic's lineup, right?
Yeah, now, yes. Oh, I did not. Okay, let me get this straight. I was never going to bring these decks on my own. This is an emergency sub, so the lineup was already built for me because, oh God, some of these decks, I still got 3-2. I was really close. Surprisingly enough, I did manage to win with the Excavate Warlock. I cannot believe that I just say that out loud. Actually, it was the Pirate DH that didn't get there. I was
Interesting.
almost going to win 3-1, and then the Pirate DH has some really interesting cards in it. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but like, I barely looked at it. I was playing from my phone, and I'm usually only a PC gamer, so I was just like doing like 3 things at the time. I was like, what is going on,
Right.
But yeah, no, I had it was really fun to be able to play something you don't usually play. Just like when we do that, I believe you do it more often than me on permanence when we play standard, and we are like, let's see what they are complaining about, so that they don't have anything to complain about because we play
Right.
wild. Um, but
So
yeah,
I have
it
a
was basically
question
that
for
idea.
you. I have a key question. Did you summon the Azerite Scorpion?
Hell no, I won against Big Shaman by playing Domino Effect. That was the win.
Understandable. Understandable.
I did absolutely nothing. The deck did absolutely nothing. It runs one good removal spell, and I actually kept Gul'dan's Gift on my opening hand because I knew that I was going to need a Twisting Nether. That is how, that is how much of a pile that deck is. I still won.
I mean, it seems like a reasonable like control list, depending on what you match up into. So I suppose like it does have merit into the Big Shaman matchup. Speaking of Big Shaman, Wild THL Fanatics really doubled down on that deck. 4 Big Shaman brings. They really seem to follow by like the most played, most win rate decks in the meta currently in Wild with the Shadow Priest, Big Shaman, Seed Lock, even 3 Odin Warriors, which is a very cool deck in Wild these days. Playing
Yeah,
cards.
I believe that looking at their lineup, and you can do this analysis when looking exactly into Wild THL Fanatics and ETC Thought, which is something that we do on Wild that doesn't replicate as good into Pro maybe. But you see this where people look at what are the good decks and they pick 1, 2, maybe 3, and then they pick comfort decks. They bring what they like. So you can see here that, for example, Nushmu Pirari brought Hostess Mage. No one else did. The deck is really good, has a really high learning curve, but he really likes the deck. So he brought it. And maybe it's really easy to counter. It loses to sometimes secret deck. Doesn't matter. He wanted to play that deck. And then he brings Big Shaman. Big Shaman is really good. And Igor Priest. Igor Priest is really good. So you have this where you are not going to see, especially knowing how Wild THL Fanatics work, you're not going to see something like we are more used to see as prior seasons went on with F2L, for example, where you see a lineup that is just cookie cutter, all for same decks, all top decks. You see a little bit more here on ETC Soft with classes, maybe DH, Priest, and Warlock, but that's just barely looking into it. And that is something that happens in WoW that doesn't usually extrapolate as well to Pro.
Yeah, you can definitely make a lot of different strategies work in Wild. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, but what I meant to say is that people are more fond of their pet decks.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at so many decks that just says other, like other rogue. I mean, the XL Warlock. The only reason it says XL and not other Warlock is because he has Serena Fault. That's just it.
Of course.
But yeah, no, really, really fun series as a player. And I really like having a wild feature nowadays. This is really fun to look at.
That is quite the showing for the Wild THL Fanatics. Wild9, anything you want to add here?
As the non-wild player.
Hey, I'm also not a wild player, so.
I mean, I mean, you can ask us, you know.
I played one season, so at least like these decks aren't completely non-familiar. Like, you know, like when I read the stuff and like look at the deck list, they still look pretty reasonable to what was going on last season. Like, I guess that's the thing about Wild, right? Like, things don't necessarily change like 100% season to season, but yeah, it seems interesting. Like, interesting about the prep, like one side seeming to be on the same page about certain things, like Priest, DH, and Warlock, and things like that. So, yeah. But, you know, THL now going 3-0 and undefeated. Very, very impressive. Good start.
Let's move on to our second Wild match, where Tom is going to tell us about the staff of the 5 Dubs facing the Wargame Greasers.
and you had to call my name while I was drinking water.
Oh, sorry.
Nah, I'm just joking. So we have Staff of the Five Doves against Worgen Greasers. Staff winning 18-7, and I'm so going to butcher this name. Filtrophobe winning 3-1 against Hudak. Copa also 3-1 against E-Gates. Sinferno 3-0 against Sangster. Sprinkle losing 2-3 against Hearthstone Dragon. I believe the only lows on the team, yeah. And lastly, on the fifth seed, we have Nice Jewish Owl winning 3-1 against Uriel, who's back. I believe they, they registered this week. I don't know if they are going to be, they are only going to be subbing, but I did see them being like, hey, hi, I'm back. And it was really funny. And just as before, we have a lot of DH, Quest and Pirate. We have an XL Quest DH, which I believe in this case is the, I don't know if you guys remember this card, obviously Impermanence knows, Ilginov, with more
Yeah.
Guide Officer.
I'm sure Wild
I
Nine
think
remembers.
that's a fairly well-known
Yes,
card still after like that certain World Championships.
He got buffed and nerfed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, Il'gynoth
Also-
is a broken card. It's always been.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean-
at least in the context of standard players, because I feel like the last time that we really had him, he left a pretty sour taste in people's mouths. Like when we had that mirror match of Il'gynoth to decide Worlds that year,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah,
I
but-
believe got it nerfed. I think.
To be fair, which wild card doesn't trigger
Yeah.
someone in a standard?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's
for
just
sure.
that's just the reality of it.
I mean, there's a
we
reason
have
we
a lot
don't
of-
play Wild.
Yeah, it's wild in a nutshell.
I do
I
agree.
love
Life's-
eating glass jars. You cannot tell me not to.
Tasty.
Yes. Then we have Holy Paladin, which has picked up yet again. Turns out that 100 damage to Dome, still good. Then we have XL, Agro Priest, and Inner Fire Priest, a deck that is, we don't have it here, of course, but it is picking up in really top legend in Wild. We have one Egg Hunter, my beloved, Pirate Shaman, two of those for reasons unknown to me, and the neat deck that we also have here is Mechathon Druid, Boar Priest, and I believe the other Paladin must be Librams.
Let's see. That was
No,
Wrath. It's 30 card Wrath
Huh, weird.
with Shrivala and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, and let's look at the other mage. The other mage is Secret Mage. Remember that? I sure don't remember that.
I mean, Secret Mage started to like get a little bit of copium again after like Holy Paladin, Holy Wrath started popping up because they realized that like the disruption, ice blocks, and whatnot were like semi decent. Like I'm not a fan myself personally, but like it has definitely come back to a degree. It also has the hilarious interaction with the new cards like Kill Jaden, where you play out your secret game plan and whatnot, right? And then you play Kill Jaden, and then you play Alanith, the weapon that draws you 3 at the end of each turn, so you're just getting these juiced demons every single turn, which is like definitely funny, but yeah, it's Secret Mage. It's doing some annoying stuff out there. Want to point out that the Egg Hunter lineup was the only one to win for the Greasers. You must like that.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't realize that. I like Hunter. Yeah, I miss Hunter. But it probably won because the other two decks are aggro. So, yeah.
For
But
sure.
yeah, no, really powerful team as always. Staff of the 5 Dubs, and they won. So congratulations.
Congratulations to staff of the 5 Dubs. And shall we move on to our standings for Wild?
Yeah, let's see what we got here.
So Tom, what are the standings for Wild looking like?
So for the standings, we actually have the two teams that were featured in the featured match. We have Wild THL Fanatics and ETC Nesoth. Or wait, am I looking at the right? I think that I am.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, sorry, because I'm looking at the thing on the website, not the stream. So we have Wild THL Fanatics and ETC Nesoth, followed by APM, then Super Serial Clowns, then Worgen Greasers, then Staff of the Five Doves, and then Hack 2. The
I can't put that team name.
do not let me say it again. Which is actually, I believe, an old PlayStation game, GameCube.
Oh, that's news to me.
It is actually no. It is actually a reference to a really obscure media. But don't make me say the name again. And it is fairly close. Beyond the third spot, we have 36, 36, 33, 32, 31 points, with the odds standing out. Wild THL Fanatics with 52 points and ETC Nesoth with 42 points.
Yeah, Nesoth has made a huge improvement from last season, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe they were. I don't think they. No. They didn't make playoffs at all last year, but they're off to a hot start. A couple of key additions to their team in Kamas and Droopy. So just a separate congrats to you guys there who are having a stellar season.
I mean, yeah, and username as well.
Right, username as well. He's literally undefeated right now. He's doing the most.
Yeah.
And I believe it's his first season in THL. Love that dude.
Wow. Should we move?
Also, I just finished my legend climb while we're doing this. Go Seedlaw.
I was gonna say that, like, because of buys though, right? Like, we also have to be careful here because it does seem like everyone's pretty close though, like, as well. But like,
oh yeah,
the buys are also here is like messing things up a bit, I think.
Yeah, it's still a tight one, and I believe, Hawk 2 also has Hawk 2 and Staff have both had a buy already, if I'm not mistaken, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, both of those teams have already had a buy, which is like even more of a testament to how close this division is.
So has APM, and APM is doing super well.
Right.
APM is a stacked lineup, just insane team right there. And even Hawk 2, you know, like their 1 seed, they got OTZ. Staff is nothing to shake a staff at. So, you know, I'm interested for the second half of this season for sure. I don't think that anybody is safe as far as a playoff spot in Wild right now.
For sure.
Someone is already missing not having F2L. But yeah.
Yeah. Should we move back to the main screen for now? So we have the mid-show commercial. And I want to invite our guests to read our commercial for the day. So Wild9, why don't you tell us a bit about Twitch Prime?
All right, I will read this. Yo. Hey there, Twitch viewers. Have you subscribed to Team Hearth League yet? And yet make today the day to subscribe to our channel yourself. This subscription enables our team to cover the cost of operating our website as well as improve the quality of our streams to our viewers. If you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, you can subscribe to the channel for free. Subscribers will get a THL emoticon as well as a normal THL chat badge. So flip that thumbs up button and make sure you tune in to streams. We appreciate each and every one of you. Special note to our viewers, check out THL's other social media points of interest. We have the website, teamhearthleague.com. Follow us on Twitter or X at THL_HS. Join us on Discord, Team Hearth League. The true Hearthstone legend Saku continues to upload all our videos on our YouTube channel, so you can check us out there as well. Just search for Team Hearth League to see some things previously recorded. And you, of course, are watching on us right now on our Twitch channel. We're obviously on your YouTube, and for all you THL fans out there, there are THL shows most days of the week. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Tuning in at any time for that Hearthstone-related content. Now, back to the good part, ka-chow.
Ka-chow indeed. Thank you for that great read, Wild9.
No problem. Every time I'm usually a guest here, so I always have to read these.
Yes. Hey, we didn't do corruption this season yet, so it gets a lot worse.
Oh, I agree. This isn't so bad.
But I want to give a special thank you for being Rachel, for subbing with Twitch Prime. It really helps us. So thank you, Rachel.
Oh yeah, Rachel.
Thank you.
And let's move on. We're going to talk about Rachel's team soon, so we get a chance to talk about Rachel with her on chat if she can help us a bit. But before we go into that match, let's go into Pro to talk about Washed Up versus 3-Seed University, where I'm going to ask Impermanence if he can tell us what happened in this match.
Yeah, actually, so this was a pretty close week. This was actually my team in Pro. Two solid lineups. So for the 3-Seed University, Tab and Skirt Reynolds got the dubs for their squads. They did have a 2nd seed sub, so Geranium graciously filled in for 3-Seed. Unfortunately, he did catch a sweep from the player of the week, Devalian. It's a similar story to Hero and probably Legacy as well. 10 Shaman brings, not just the same I almost said Shawarma Shaman. No, I'm hungry. They're not just Swarm Shamans. Again, we do have several of those different archetypes in Standard right now. But yeah, 10 Shaman brings. I believe there was at least 6. I'm not seeing the nerf for Maxi's series, but 6 Shaman bands. Our team went in with like a pretty similar mindset when we were prepping. Like, we knew Shaman. We wanted to kind of build lineups around bringing Cycle Rogue, because we have a lot of confident Rogue players, and bringing decks that can counter Shaman, Zaremi, and all that. So a lot of DK for our squad there. So we were fairly on the same page, and we see a bit more variety from 3-Seed University. We got more of the DH lineups. We see some Discover Hunter, a lot of hand buff Pally, hand buff and Libram Pally, I should say. 4 brings from 3-Seed versus 0 on our side. And it was a close one, honestly, 15-12. Generally some pretty close matches there, I would say. And this was a really important win, considering I think we were fighting for first, so with that win, this gave us a couple of points into first place, so we were very happy about that, and we were pretty focused. Not much else to say there.
Yeah. Wild9, anything you want to add about this match?
Sure. I mean, I think like it's pretty interesting to me, like people's take on Paladin right now. Actually, in the Conquest format, I feel like you get kind of differing views a little bit. Like, definitely, I think VS also, like, in their report, like, had some of the Paladin decks pretty high up there, and I do think there's been a bit of experimentation and just like polishing in some of those deck lists. So might become relevant, but it's interesting that Washed Up like didn't bring it, and I do think there is kind of like different views, I would say, about Paladin in the Conquest ban meta in particular. Like, I think on ladder, it's probably going to do real well. It's just a question of what are you trying to do with that Paladin, especially in open list, where in Conquest, in Legacy, you have that flexibility, and there's arguably at least 2 viable, maybe 3 viable archetypes. So it's interesting in the open list, what exactly is the Paladin doing there specifically? Like, I feel like with Washed Up's lineups, they're a little bit more straightforward in some sense, and then kind of bringing what they conceive of as the best decks that don't have strong counters. So just kind of interesting, the different approaches, very close results here, relatively speaking, at least, and then that kind of vaults, I think, washed up to the top of a very, very, very competitive Black Conference, right? So, yeah.
I will say that we were pretty we thought pretty highly of hand buff Paladin last week. We just happened to value other lists higher this week. I think that deck definitely has a lot of merit going for it. It's pretty explosive. I'm pretty sure it has a good matchup into at least Dawnguard Druid, right? Which is trying to counter like certain top ladder decks like Cycle Rogue and the decks that kind of counter Shaman. Like hand buff Paladin is pretty much just like a ton of burst damage and like disruption and via like what's it called, Razor Scale, Speaker Stomper, which are pretty mean to like certain top decks like Cycle Rogue and even some of the control decks too, right? So yeah, just I mean, even Maxi last week, he listed Pally, like hand buff Pally in his like recommended lineup, in his opinion. So I think it is a valid bring, and like you said, there's even like about 3 good builds or 4 good builds even.
I think like the idea of Paladin is definitely, if you're expecting Rogue, that makes a lot of sense. It kind of locks you in more or less to a Shaman ban, I would say, but if you are pretty confident opponents bring Rogue, then I think that's pretty solid.
That's a good point, actually, yeah, because we've been bringing Rogue, I think, every week.
Yeah, I think it's a question because as the meta has adapted to Shaman, I think that there's more like at least this week. Okay, I think last week it probably depended on whether you played early or late in the week, but like I think the overall sentiment is that at least there's enough decks out there that are 50-50-ish against Pirate Shaman. It's not a necessity to ban. So that's, I think, where you have to figure out what your approach is to be there. Like want to go in being a little bit more flexible, or do you not mind just kind of locking in a ban there?
Tom, anything you want to say about this match before we move on to our final pro match of the night?
No, I think it was summarized, and my level of standard understanding. No, I don't wanna say anything.
Okay, that's fair. Now let's move to our second match for for Pro, where Wild9 is going to tell us about the Hearthstone Queens facing the Lethally Blind.
All right, so Hearthstone Queens take it 14-10 over Lethally Blind. We had Being Rachel in the 1 taking it over Livdera. We have Linny losing to Athena, so Athena taking it there in the 2 seed. Athlon in the 2 seed over Dragon Rider 3-1. Jagatari taking it 3-1 over Tylenophy, and Alkaline Cat taking it 3-0 over Ironic. And that might have been a DQ of some kind, right? Probably something like that. I'm just guessing because there's no bans for that one. Yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit interesting. This is kind of like why I think the open list format is pretty open in some sense. Like you definitely have fewer Swarm Shamans than in the previous matchup.
Yeah.
Definitely some more aggression coming out of Hearthstone Queens to some degree with the Hunters or the Priests or the DHs. Lethal and Blind, on the other hand, also bringing a little bit of that, but more control-y type stuff. You see the Rainbow DK and the Dawnguard Druid. So a little bit of different approach there, but definitely also like more diversity of decks, I think. And I also think in the open list format, because you can target stuff and things like that, especially week to week. If people have, this is week 3, so you at least have 2 weeks of data. Admittedly, there's a patch in between, but maybe people trying to target something out to be good against a couple decks. So I think you're kind of seeing that in the diversity of classes and archetypes brought here, because definitely a lot of diversity across these 2 teams.
For sure.
Yeah, speaking of that, I'm loving this 5-seed matchup. We see some actual spice lists. We've got Asteroid Shaman seeing... I haven't seen it come up too much in Pro, but I love seeing that deck when it does make a showing. And we see on the opposing side, on Lethally Blind, we see Mech Rogue.
Yeah.
I think that's the first representation it's had this season. Unfortunately,
it can still go
didn't
face.
really go. Sorry?
It can still go face.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I get it. I get it for sure.
My favorite feature is Deliverant Paladin, because that's actually the deck that I played to Legend last month, which is not good, but it's fun.
For standard?
Yeah,
Oh, nice, nice.
next to the Asteroid Shaman.
Nice.
Oh wait, also there's a big beast hunter. There's two big beast hunters in here. What the wait? Hold the phone. What is this? This is a spicy. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. Well, Rachel. Okay, so being Rachel, like player of the week lineup right here, we see some meta. We see Rainbow DK, Swarm Shaman is a Remy Priest, and we got the Mystery Egg Hunter, Big Beast. It's just pure Big Beast. We got King Plush, Muckla. It's that list where with the yodelers and the eggs, and you're getting like the discounted plushies and all that. That's a cool list. I used to have a lot of fun with that one. I love seeing Big Beast lists. This is a really spicy lineup all around from the Queens. Hats off to them there. Yeah, and there is oh, sorry, you're right. There is Lynn with the Reno Shaman, Big Beast as well. Oh, damn. I'm glad that paid off for them.
For sure.
He-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say yeah, definitely congratulations to them, and I really like yeah. Besides, I mean, we know that Shaman is going to be always, I mean, for the time being, popular, if we use a non mean word. But I really like how colorful their lineup is, because that basically just says variety to me, and both teams really spread the variety this week.
Now, let's take a look at the standings here. What do the standings for black and pink look like? At the end of the week in permanence, what is going on in pro after our third week of matches?
Well, I was actually wrong. I thought Washed Up came up to first place, but it is very neck and neck in the Black Conference with Cheesemongers. That being said, the second and third positions, Washed Up and 3 Seed University, seem to have already played their more difficult lineups. So we could definitely see a bit of a shuffle there. But even overall, like all the way, like the top 6 teams have already broken the 40-point mark, which is about where the top 3 in the pink is sitting. So like you were saying earlier, Black's a very competitive division right now, and there seems to be a lot of movement. And much like in the Wild division, I would say I wouldn't count any of the bottom teams out at all either. It's just like, even looking at the bottom, we got like Staff, we got F2L sitting in 4th, Brushy Tuna, OPP. I mean, like, it's anybody's game going into the second half of the season. It's a really tight one. And even Pink as well, Lethally Blind, ET, Yogg-Saron, and Ada's Litter trailing unidentified pet tracking for the playoff spots in Pink. We seem to have, in the first 2 spots, Ada's Litter and UPT have already played a lot of their more difficult weeks, so hopefully they can hang on there. But yeah, overall, it's really tight. It's really tight. Even like the difference from top to bottom isn't really that big either. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that the AOS stat is tough to know in the first 3 weeks, because it's basically based on it's basically based on 2 weeks of data, and it's 1 week less basically of the number of weeks. So it's based on 2 weeks of data right now. But
Right.
I know that Washed Up started the week ahead. You guys actually also have more points, because Cheesemongers United are playing Washed Up this week, and they actually had 3 matches in the books, but Maxi Bond hasn't submitted their win yet. So
Oh, right.
so it's
Yeah.
still, they won 3-1, I think. So
Yeah, that's true.
So Washed Up should have 4 more points, and Cheesemongers should have 1 more point, basically. But yeah, it's going to come down to the wire, and yeah, Black is just super competitive with all kinds of really great teams conference. So I think it'll just be a little bit of a bloodbath in some sense, and yeah, it should be interesting to see what ends up happening.
For sure. Now, we can move to our final series of the night. We left Legacy for last this time. So, shall we move to Legacy?
Yeah, sure.
And if we're doing legacy, we can talk about the best thing to talk about. Mako isn't here to say it with me, but we have a tie to open legacy. And so I want to ask Tom to tell us about do a barrel roll facing strictly business.
Yeah, I love the overall. So yeah, we have a tie. So no team won, but we all did. We have Jorari going 3-2 on the first seed. We have Small White. Actually, this is a DQ with LF Potter taking the win. We have Classy 3-0 on the third seed. Kira, whom I believe is here with us in Twitch, uh, losing 0-3. And lastly, we have LT Cavalry winning 3-2 on the fifth seed. So we have a tie. It seems more so than anything because unfortunately the second seed, who's now being subbed out, got a DQ.
That's a lot of sweeps.
Not close at all. Yep. And then a tie.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
That's just a very
I was
hectic
thinking that.
like match. Like,
Looks like everyone tried a bit, and then in the end, no one won.
No. As I said,
Yeah.
we all did.
It's true.
I know that the ladder meta is kind of whatever just because of Shaman, but honestly, like in a ban meta, the meta is actually quite interesting. Like I guess that's why Worlds will also be interesting, just because I just think, when you look at Legacy, there's actually quite a diversity of classes, even when you have a lot of Shaman. I think it makes sense in a ban meta, right? Like when you
Hard
can ban
agreed.
out really popular classes, like everything is kind of viable. So I think it's interesting. I think it's more interesting, even though I understand the ladder meta sometimes it can feel like there's a lot of certain types of decks, right? So
I mean,
it's so much better.
It is interesting, but I don't think that interesting is the right word, because you feel like there is this variety just because you can not face the oppressive thing. So of course that just because you don't face Shaman, there is a second best deck, a third best deck, and so on. But it feels refreshing because you are just taking out the big chunk that makes the meta on ladder feel oppressive. So I feel like it is a somewhat biased variety, calling it that, just because you can take Shaman out of the equation. Yeah.
I feel like on like a player-to-player basis, though, it kind of creates like a much fresher experience, right? Because like even if you look at like for example, with like the shaman bans, let's look at like the tops, or sorry, let's look at like the third seed where both sides ban shaman. You have hunter, mage, priest versus paladin, priest, rogue. Like that's pretty unique, like relevant to like the ladder experience. So like on a person-to-person base, I think it at least keeps it somewhat fresh.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's not fresh, but you need to take into account that it is fresher when you can ban whatever and you don't have to ban Shaman.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, I think that's generally true, but I also think in closed list format that we have in THL, like that's not necessarily true. Like if you brought for example, if you brought Shaman, Warrior, DK +1, or like even Hunter, Priest, they have reasonable matchups against Pirate Shaman. Like even if they swap to Big Shaman, like a lot of these decks are good against Big Shaman. Like you can come up with some lists where it's kind of hidden what you're gonna do with Shaman. Like it's possible. It's just that I do agree in general there's not really anything else you want to ban. Like I just think it's true that in general, like whatever four, especially in like closed list conquest, like whatever four your opponent brings, it just is easier to ban Shaman. So I think most people are. But the reality is leaving it up isn't devastating to your lineup if you want to craft it that way. And I understand a lot of people don't want to craft it that way, just because I think like it's true. Like is there any other class you're really afraid of? Like maybe Zarimi Priest is good. I don't know. Like there's nothing else that's super scary. I get it.
Well, there is rogue, but it seems like it's like you said, like both teams didn't seem to want to play the anti-shaman lineups. We don't really see, we see one DK and one warrior on either side, but yeah, exactly. It seems like they just chose to ban it and not play the counters necessarily, like the counter lineups.
I mean, looking at the bans for the week, and I'm just looking at, I believe this is the Gold Conference. The bans are just, so we have 22 bans, 19 Shaman bans, 1 Rogue ban, 1 Druid ban.
That's hilarious.
That's a lot.
I can't believe we haven't thought to like go and look at the actual ban counts lately, because we're always like, oh, there's 10 shaman bans, there's this many shaman bans. That's hysterical to just take in. Holy shit.
Yeah.
23 shamans brought, 19 of them banned. Only 4 got to play.
Yeah. Well, speaking of shaman bans, let's look at our second match for Legacy, because that will say a lot. We're looking at the 7 Mile Spanking Machine versus Los Hustins Hermanos. And I want to ask Wild9 to tell us about that one.
So we have the 7 Mile Spanking Machine taking it 15-11 over Los Justin Hermanos. The 1 seed, always just in time, getting the win 3-2 over Empole. Pokemon 6-1 over A Harmless Dog with a 3-1 score. Neums over Skirt Reynolds 3-1. 2-Star Mako 3-0 over Hudak. And Super Center 3-2 over Rutski. So this one definitely pretty interesting or close. Like, you have the top 2 seeds going one way and the bottom 3 seeds going the other way, which is always interesting in my opinion. Sometimes that's team construction. You can kind of look at it at the PR level as well, that there's a little bit of team construction game, approaches there perhaps. But also, the bottom 3 seeds, like, this was their first loss, it looks like, meaning Skirt Reynolds, Hudak, and Rufsky are not pushovers in any way, shape, or form. They probably can punch above their weight, but they do get taken in this matchup that allows 7 Mile Spanking Machine to get the win and move to being undefeated after week 3. So just very interesting in terms of like team construction. At least that's like the thing that stands out to me in this matchup, because Empole is having a rough start to the season, but also probably because, they're not a 500 PR player. They're probably going up against 550 plus players, meaning that they're like, in true PR, there might be a 200 PR deficit there, hidden, so to speak. So that's kind of like a tall task, or like that's just a difficult situation to be. I know that can be frustrating sometimes when you just feel like, oh, I'm constantly playing top 200 legend players or top 500 legend players and things like that. Just very challenging. But it's working for them because they are 3-0 and undefeated on the season, and definitely beat a very good team that went into this week undefeated, that even in the 3, 4, and 5 seeds have very, very good representation, but still working for them. So yeah, very impressive win by 7 Mile Spanking Machine.
Yeah, it really speaks to how deep their team is, 7 Mile. Because it is true. It's just like some of the players that you face in the top seed are just insane players. Like you're saying, like top 20 players generally, or top 50 players, and it's tough. I've been there. He'll bounce back. I'm sure. Impulse a really good player, but can't be too upset with being undefeated. The team's having a great season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, if you're in that 1 seed, you're taking 2 points any week, like that's fine. Like, that's, you're doing your job to allow hopefully your 5 seed to get the win there as well, and your 4 seed to do well, things like that. So it's part of that awkward the team construction in a bit, but yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. But like, obviously, they can compete. If you're getting 2 points consistently any spot, you're definitely competing with your seed. So.
Mm-hmm. Let's move to our standings, shall we?
Yeah, what do we got here?
So, Wild9, what are our final Legacy standings? And as usual, you can go highlights or you can talk everything, whatever you want to say. Oh, Wild9?
Did we lose him?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think you cut out for a second there. I didn't hear you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The legacy standings.
Yes.
I'm getting used to the four conferences a little bit. So
It's
So we do
hard.
have four conferences here. Yeah. In the blue conference, we have Dad Legend leading the way with 66 points. Goodness gracious. Over 3 weeks, which means that we're talking about 22 points a week. What the heck? Off to an insanely hot start. I don't know. Remains to be seen. Maybe don't know who they face, but that's still. I mean, anytime, even if you're facing teams that, let's say, like you're supposed to win in quotes, whatever that means. I mean, sweeping all of them is just that's just insane. So, anyways, they are way ahead with room to spare in some sense. The closest team to them are 10 points behind after just 3 weeks. 7 Miles Banking Machine 56, Defias also there with 56. We do have 4 teams right now who are undefeated. Standard THL Degenerates being the 4th. Yeah, and then you're seeing some pretty good overall. I would say some pretty good like point distribution. I don't think anyone's left that far behind, honestly, and everyone's still certainly in the running. Gold Conference a little bit tighter at the top than some of the other conferences, but Silver Conference 3 teams over 50 points, also very notable to kind of like point out. So definitely you have some really competitive spots and conferences going into week 4. I think week 4 is halfway. I think week 4 is halfway for most of the leagues. So will be interesting to see how things shape up after this week.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's good. Like Kira is pointing this out in chat, but like Gold Conference, there's the top 2 teams have 2 ties, and it's with the quote unquote bottom 2 teams. So obviously it means that you have a very competitive conference, right? Because teams that are doing well are versus the teams that are doing less well. I mean, they're obviously able to compete with each other. So
For sure. Shall we move to the main screen for our final note of the night?
Gimme.
So we have our checkout question. It's our special moment. I want to thank Wild9, Tom Carter, and Impermanence for being here with me. And I want to give them the checkout question, which is a fun question. We have Bartender Bob coming to Standard. And I don't think any of you have unlocked him yet. So what I want to ask is Bartender Bob going to be useful in Standard? Or are you excited for it? Do you think it won't help? Say anything you want about Bob, basically.
So just for reference, right? It's a 6 mana 4/5, and it's Battle Cry. Choose an action from the battlegrounds. There's draw a minion, get 2 copies of it. Freeze all enemy minions. Put an enemy minion into your hand. Your opponent gets 3 coins, and then discover a 3-cost minion. Refresh 3 mana.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, 6 mana for a 4/5. The action better be busted. I don't think that many of these actions, at least in Standard, are busted. I know people talked about in Wild doing the freeze thing, but like in Rogue or something, but like you can do it so much better with other classes that I'm not sure that's really relevant in Wild. I don't know if that's a thing in Standard, like for Rogue to try to bounce this and freeze your opponent a bunch of times. Like that 6 mana seems like they thought about that. They decided, no, we don't want that to be in Standard, because if they put it at 4 or something with a lower stat line, maybe you could do that in Rogue. But the fact that it's 6, I think, makes it kind of not a real thing. I don't know.
I think they got better stuff to be bouncing.
In Wild, we have Barden for mana.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, some people are saying that it's just going to be added to the Hostess Mage as another Barden, or because the deck runs very specific minions. It is kind of neat for the cycle, the draw a minion, get 2 copies option, because if you get your Romath or if you get another Barden, but as any other deck, yeah, probably it seems like a really neat addition to Reno decks, because many of those just run Zephyrs for Frost Nova, and that is a conditional 5 mana freeze. This
Yeah.
is a non-conditional. So yeah, um, doesn't seem that bad. As for standard, because Reno decks are no longer popular, I don't know. It does seem neat that Bob can steal an starship, neat quote unquote, um, because it is a cheaper Yoxoron. Um, and it also kind of counters, which I just realized, Celiacs on Kiliacs.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking if Rogue can't use it to steal on Kiliax from Druid.
I was honestly just thinking Druid might just play it. Like, the three classes to me, in standard at least, that might consider this card would be Druid for the ramping usages and potentially just using the freeze effect to either buy themselves time as they ramp or perhaps just tutor out their more valuable minions. Alternatively, you have like Warrior for similar reasons. They have New Horizons as well, or even DK perhaps in various lists. I don't see it being too like appealing to many of the other classes.
As long as this doesn't become Yogg again, which was a problem, right? With the mind control thing. But this is steel, so I believe it goes to the hand, right?
Yeah, you put it into your hand and you got to pay for it. But I mean, it's still another answer, and some decks might value that.
Yeah, no, it
I think that
definitely
is a
seems
really good
a
call.
really cool car, really flavorful. Um, I just hope it's not like this option is so OP in comparison to all of the other ones that the reason this card is in place just because of this, just because there is a prior card that is too powerful or quote unquote too powerful, and now you need to address Bob because of one of the options and the other ones never so play. I just hope that doesn't happen. But I really like the card. What I don't like, and I'm gonna rant a little bit here, is the fact that the quest on the client says that I need to play Battlegrounds or Standard. What's up with that?
That honestly to me feels like an oversight. Like, how come Wild's not in it? It's very strange to me.
No, I think that was definitely premeditated. I have like a couple theories on that, honestly. Like, obviously, the first one being is, standard is their most income generating format. They want to get people to play that. And if I'm not a BGs person, but didn't they add some sort of like pay to play variant to BGs, like something you have to pay for tokens or whatever?
Yeah, you
It's
can
not
now
really
reroll
pay,
heroes, but
though.
yeah.
Well, it's pay to win or something, you could argue, right? I'm genuinely trying to understand that myself. I don't play Battlegrounds.
There's a pass. There's a pass that allows you to pick 2 more heroes that most people say if you're trying to be competitive, Battlegrounds matters. But otherwise, it's generally not that big. I would say.
Well, just by that logic, then at least, I mean, they're trying to incentivize people to play the two modes that kind of like, sorry, that kind of yield the most revenue for them. I think that is at least a relevant point to consider. And maybe it's not the reason, but it is a potential reason at least. Other than that, I mean, I feel like, and this isn't to say that they couldn't include Wild in this, but I feel like they might have just not included Wild because they didn't want to like coax people into playing Wild, and then they face a whole bunch of seed locks or some OTK, and then they just feel bad and turn the game off or something. I think that's a little bit like quite a bit less likely, honestly. But when I was thinking about it, I mean, it just came up, and then you have people who think that Wild is like an extremely expensive format. Sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not. But maybe the folks who think it is don't know about the value, not value, the budget decks. I think it probably is generally like they're just trying to push those two modes.
Yeah, but the thing is that if you just type play ranked, right? Because you can laugh all you want, but the fact that it says standard means that twist is also not included.
True.
right? And they try to push Twist yet again with some bundles and some other stuff. Like, you can argue that the reason may be because they don't want to pinpoint that Wild is the thing they have, but they could just generalize the message by saying ranked
I agree.
as just the mode of rank, you know?
That's
Yeah.
why I felt like it feels like an oversight. The only thing I can think of is this card busted in Wild or something? They want to slow it down? Like, I don't know. Like, otherwise, can't understand why they would not include those other modes, like Twist included as well, right? Like, it just seems like, especially if it's a monetary thing, then they definitely should push us towards Twist, right? Like, in theory.
That would be a great point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing I get, because I saw the progression of the quest, the last steps, I believe it says, one of them says add 120 cards to your hand, which in Wild is going to take like 3 games. That I get.
Right.
But just
Maybe that's it.
yeah, but this is someone who's already on the 3rd stage of an event, playing specifically a deck that gives cards into your hand. Like, if you build around it sufficiently enough, there's gotta be something in standard you can also do to get the thing. I just feel like it's stretching it out, and it just feels like a little jab to wild players. Like, ha, we know you exist, we don't care, you know, which is
It's definitely rubbed them the wrong way. I've seen plenty of people online talking about how they're just not going to participate whatsoever because they just don't want to play the other modes. I mean, there are plenty of players who will play standard, but like, there's a larger population that have just blatantly said, like, I'm not playing Battlegrounds just to get Bob, right? So it definitely could have been inclusive.
If it is just about elongating it, the thing that they've done that I think is successful in the previous events was just gating some of the quests, right? Like, after you're done with this quest, you can't do the second stage until 4 days or whatever, right? So I do think that strategy makes a lot of sense, rather than like, because while you can complete this step too fast, we have to gate it somehow. Like, that does seem silly. I agree. That's not a great reason.
yeah, and also, I mean, it's Bob. You could make the thing only Battlegrounds, even if it's what do we call a constructed car? You could make it like, yeah, one of the steps is just you need to play Battlegrounds because flavor, but because it says Battleground and standard ranked, it's just like, what, you know?
Yeah, that is really awkward.
Well,
or the wild players a bone, Blizzard. Come on.
Give him some love.
Well, I will move us on, since it is around that time. I want to give a very special thank you to Tom Carter for being here with us tonight. Thank you to Impermanence for joining us, and a very special thank you to our guest of the night, Wild9. Thank you for being here, as you've been so many times, but it's always great having you as our guest.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Lotus, for guiding us, as always.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. I had a lot of fun. I hope you all had it too.
I did.
Yeah, this was a good night tonight, I think.
Yeah. I want to thank all our viewers. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, let us know. We're always looking for feedback. I'm always trying to make a better Hearthcenter for you. With that said, that is it. You will see us next week, wherein we will talk more about THL. Get ready for it. See you all and have a good night. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night and good luck on finals, everyone.